our skewers and I've soaked them. Now it's important when you do a skewer. If you're going to do them in the oven, that's fine. Here, we're going to use them on a griddle. But if you put them on a grill, remember the grill could flame up, and that's why you want to soak the skewers so they don't burn. So what we're going to do with this, we're going to start with a piece of chicken. See, just go ahead, take that skewer, put it right through the center like that. All right, and one more piece of chicken on this. All right, let's do our next one. So we go with our chicken. And you're wondering, you may be asking, hey, well, why aren't you just doing it this way? By doing it flat like this one, it's a lot easier to turn it over to make sure our chicken gets cooked. That's why we want to skewer it to where it'll lay flat. It just makes things a little bit easier. Now, you know, this is one of those dishes at the festival that I love to eat. And everybody talks about, oh, you know, I can't wait to have the lamb. I can't wait to have the chicken. But you know what the secret to this is the sauce. Now, I have our griddle heating up to where we really have it hot, okay? Because we want this to sear. We want to get that little bit of sizzle on. So let's just take our skewers, put them right on the griddle. I don't have to oil this because in our marinade, we have olive oil. And this is going to take about 4 minutes on each side. So we should only have to flip these one time. So now, while our skewers are cooking, let's go ahead and work on our tzatziki sauce. So here, we want to blend this nice and smooth. So we're going to get in some yogurt. Now, I like using a Greek yogurt. You can use a plain yogurt, but you know, Greek yogurt has that little tartness to it, and I really, really love that. I've taken a cucumber, peel it first, seed it, and then I just shredded it, okay? So we'll get that cucumber in. And you know, look at these flavors. Think of our vegetables, our chicken on that skewer. You know, we're using chicken today, but you could do beef, you could do lamb. A little splash of lemon juice, about a tablespoon of garlic. And a little dill. Just a little fresh dill. Now we're going to put in a little bit of kosher salt. This is one of those things where we can always adjust our seasoning. So let's go ahead, get this turned on because we want this nice and smooth. Now, before we check this, let's check on our skewers. Let's see if it's time to give those a turn. Take your tongs and just give it a turn. Look how it's browning off. Just turn that chicken, turn your skewers. So now, let's get back to working on this sauce. I think this will be perfect right where we are. So always be careful when you remove your blade. So now, we can pour this right in our bowl. Our sauce is made, so now let's go ahead and check our skewers, get cleaned up, because, oh, baby, whoo, I can't wait to dip those skewers in this sauce. Let's just take our skewers, place them right on our platter. Now, I told you it was all about the flavor of that dipping sauce. So just a little bit of salt right on top of the veggies, because we hadn't showed them any love before. So here. a little bit of onion. And you know, you always hear chefs talk about layering flavors. Let me show you a little trick. We're going to use a little ground beef for this. But you notice I put some of the onions in. Now let's go in with our ground beef. And we want this to brown off really nice. Now, when you hear chefs talk about layering flavors, it's basically not cooking everything at the same time to allow those flavors to blend together. So, of course, we're making a traditional Greek dish called moussaka, but you know, being from New Orleans, I got to put my little New Orleans twist on it. So I'm going to do just a little touch Creole seasoning. We're going to do a little pinch of a little kosher salt in this. And basically, we want this to just get nice and brown. Make sure it's cooked all the way through. And you notice, as this is cooking, I'm trying to break it up. This is what we want, to make sure we break this up. Now, this is what I was talking about. We put some of those onions in earlier. Now, let's add a few more. So this is when you hear chefs talk about layering flavors. This is what it's all about. So we want those onions to cook down and release some of their sweetness. As you can see, our meat is starting to change colors. So here, we're going to add a couple of things to it. We're going to do some oregano, just fresh oregano, a little touch of cinnamon. And you might go, cinnamon? But you know what? In this particular dish, it gives that little flavor where when you taste it, you go, wow, what is that little flavor that I'm not familiar with or you wouldn't recognize, but cinnamon and meat go great together. So now, in here, little red wine. And we're going to get in a little bit of tomato sauce. We just want to make sure that this gets all mixed together. And this is going to cook and reduce down some. So while this is reducing down, butter, flour, and milk. You know, a roux. A roux is nothing but butter and flour. Anytime you cook flour, that's a roux. So in our pan, we have a 1/4 pound of butter. We're going to make the true blonde roux, what they call the roux blanc, the blonde roux, where we're only going to cook this long enough to get rid of this floury taste. So let's get our flour in. And you're going to see how this won't lump up on us because we put the flour directly into that butter. And you see, we don't want this to cook. See how this is starting to smooth together? Let's go ahead and get the rest of our milk in. Now we want this to heat up and get really, really hot. And we're going to take it off the fire and add some egg to this. And we want to add that egg off the fire because we don't want that egg to scramble. Let's do a little Parmesan cheese. So we're going to put half of our cheese in and let it melt in here. While the cheese is melting, don't forget, come over, give your meat sauce a nice little stir. And you notice, see how thick this is starting to get? It's starting to reduce.